Okay, Zeph, we've got that all set up for now, so we can. Oh, oops. Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona, and it really is a surprise. I guess I better turn that on now. I seem to have gone live ultra early today without realizing it. I was sitting here getting everything set up so that at 6 o'clock I just had to come in and hit the button and we could go live. But I seem to have done that a little early. I was just sitting here getting things organized. I was about to go off and into my little study room over there and do some writing on my book. And I ended up hitting the go live button instead. So I guess we're live. So welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1464, which is what treasures are hiding in your files. And Zeph is not sure what's going on, so you may hear some. It's okay, Zeffy girl. It's okay. We've just gone live a little earlier than normal. Yes, thing's going to throw me off now. Because I'm going to come 6 o'clock and I probably want to come back live again. Oh, well, we'll just have to do we may have to do a second live, but that's okay. So what treasures are hiding in your file? So over the last few days, I've been working on, the last 3 days, I have been working on a book. I'm doing a 7-day book writing challenge to have a book published in 7 days, written and published in 7 days. And part of it is researching your resources and all of that sort of stuff and coming up with your outline and things. And the topic I have chosen, I was looking at and going, I think I wrote a blog about that one time. And everything I've got, I put into I've got a couple of different places. I've got an external drive. I've got Dropbox. I've got different places that I copy everything. Copy everything to. Yeah, hi, Kathy. Yes, I know I'm way earlier. I accidentally hit the go live button when I was getting everything set up so I could go do some writing and then come back and go live. But so we're just live a little earlier today. That's all. So I was, so I thought, well, let me go and check my file areas because I've got them all backed up into different locations because I don't like losing things. And so I typed in the subject of my book that I'm writing and up popped like 4 or 5 blogs. And I thought, oh, there's definitely a blog. I know I've written a blog about this, so I'm going to go find it. So I went to go find it and I hadn't written 1 blog. I'd written 5. And I was like, oh, And so I started reading through them. And then I got a little sidetracked and I thought, well, I wonder what else I've gotten here. And so I started diving into my files and things. And I was coming up with stuff that I was like, oh my gosh, I'd totally forgotten about that. You know, back in 2012, 2013, 2014, I had a radio show on Blog Talk Radio. And I found a folder that's got all of the guests I had on during that time. It's got all of their bios in there. In one case, I actually found a transcription, which I printed off because I thought, oh, I want to go read that one again. And I had transcriptions in there from the radio shows. I had notes. So like I had the person's bio and then I had the questions there I was going to ask them. And I thought, wow, I actually had that really kind of like organized. And it was all there in this one folder. And I went over to another folder and there were all these different travel blogs I had written over the time that was on for some reason the site went down. I don't know why. Maybe, it might have been because I forgot to pay the hosting bill. But I found out, I found all those blogs that I'd written that I'd had on my travel blog site. And I was like thinking, well, some of them I could just scrub up and update a little bit and throw them back up there again. And just see what happens this time. And this time, remember to keep everything in there and keep the hosting bill paid. So it was just interesting. I was going through and I was like, oh my gosh. So like, see, what have I got up in here? And I found chapters of my book that I have started writing about my journey as Brad's caregiver. So I found the chapter called Keeping It Normal or Normal. What is normal? There's 2 different versions of this one out there. They're basically the same. I found 2 different versions. They are basically the same. Basically the same. There's just a few wording changes in there. A few, one has more information than the other one has. And so if I combine them together into one, we would have a really cool chapter. So that's what I'm going to do with that one. So I found, and that's the one that's 9 years, 8 months, 3 days. 9 years, 8 months, and 3 days is the title of that one. And I've been writing that one for years. I found a blog on how to save money on your next event by having doing an event at sea. What other blogs did I do? Oh, yes. So this one kind of got a little emotional because I actually found stuff that I have that Brad had written. I found a blog that he had written. I found he'd started writing a book on life lessons learned or life lessons or something like that. And when I first discovered that, I thought, I know what I'm going to do with it, and I'm still going to do it. So when I finally write the book, 9 Years, 8 Months, 3 Days, in the back of the book, there will be an area there where all the stuff that Brad has written about his journey with cancer, as far as his book that he was starting to write, is going to be placed, and it's going to be completely unedited and untouched. It's going to be exactly as he wrote it at the time that he wrote it. And there'll be a thing at the top of that thing that basically says that this was discovered after Brad had passed of what he'd started writing for his book. And the following pages are completely untouched, unedited. Basically, it's a rough draft. So enjoy what he has to say, because he can no longer be with us to share his words, but this is a way he can share his words. And I may even incorporate his blog into there. I know I have his CaringBridge entries from the first go around with cancer. We didn't update CaringBridge as much during the second go around with cancer. So but I've got all of those. I found all those files as well. So some of it was a little hard, and I started reading some of it, and I was like, no, I gotta put this away for now, because it was too much of a emotional roller coaster. What else did I find in here? Oh, I found our itinerary for our. When I typed in blog, I don't know why this one came up, but it's our itinerary from when we did our river cruise in 2011. And it had on there like all of our flight numbers, our arrival times, our departure times, what airports we're landing at. It had the full itinerary there, because I think, if I remember correctly, this is the one that I sent down to my parents, a copy to my parents. Brad's kids all had a copy of it. Brad's mum had a copy of it. So if anybody needed to get in contact with us while we were away, they had the information and knew where we were. They had the numbers of the hotels the names and addresses of the hotels, along with their phone numbers in there. We had a global phone number, so they had access to that. We just left them the whole instructions. If you need to get in touch with us during this time, this is where we're staying. If it's during this time, this is where we're staying. If we're on the river cruise, this is how you contact us. So I found that in there as well. It's amazing what stuff you find. What was this one? This one's interesting. Couples need a break too. Taking a time out with the one you love. Oh, yeah, I don't think I'll get into that one right now. But there was another blog that's in there. I found this whole thing with blogs, health and fitness and honeymoons, and what else is in here? It was time to take my own advice. Oh, yes, that was time to take my. This was actually a really cool road trip. So this is sort of like it was a day trip that we did. When did we do this? In 2011. This is from 2011. But basically it says, after writing so much about workaholics and talking about them for the past 3 weeks on my radio show, I decided it was time to follow my advice and take a break. So yesterday dawned bright and beautiful day, and my husband suggested we go for a drive. Just him, me, and our dog, Gus. So we left LA and headed on the 405, then veered off onto the 14. Our first stop of the day was at Vasquez Rocks. Some of you may know about these rocks from many of the movies that have featured them. They're very impressive to see them up close like that. People were out clambering all over them and up the highest peak. As much as we would have loved to have gone scrambling over them, I didn't get a chance. I had screwed up my ankle at present, and my husband's knee was in bad shape, so we just walked around and admired them. We left the rock, and so those rocks had been in Star Trek a lot, in Star Trek and in Star Trek movies as well. If I remember correctly, the one where they bring the original Star Trek together with Star Trek Next Generations. I think it was called was one of the first Star Trek movies they did when they had the original Star Trek crew with Captain Picard and his crew and how they met. And those rocks were used in that movie. We left the rocks and kept following the 14 out to Palmdale, where we stopped for lunch. Nothing fancy, just a fast food drive-through. Not many places you can go with a dog to eat. Gus patiently waited for any tidbits we were inclined to cross his way. Now, we were in Brad's Yukon. And if you've ever been in a Yukon, you've got the two captain chairs up the front there, and in between is the console. And we would have the passenger chairs behind there. We had the separate captain chairs behind. We would have them folded down. So he basically had the whole back area. And he would lay down on the floor between the two seats that were flattened, and he would put his head on the console, and his head would be up like this, and his eyes would just be going backwards and forwards, trying to figure out who was going to give him his next tidbit. And he would sit like that for ages, patiently waiting, not saying a word, barking, whining, or anything else. After our culinary delight, we headed off to see the poppies. That's right, all the poppies were out at that time. This is around April. Where am I? Lost the poppies. Antelope Valley is famous for its poppies and wildflowers, and right now was a great time to go and see them. This was written April 11th, 2011. We saw many poppies along the side of the road, many cars parked and people out enjoying the poppies. We got to the Antelope Valley, California Poppy Reserve, only to find out no dogs allowed. Sigh. But we didn't let that faze us. We headed up the road and found our own spot to pull over and admire the poppies. We took some photos of the poppies and even managed to get Gus to sit and pose with the poppies. Oh, I remember those pictures too. They look awesome. Orange poppies, and he had his purple leash on, collar and leash. But he was more interested in watering them than sitting for a photo or two. After that, we hit the road and continued on our adventure. We headed down a side road called Munn's Ranch Road. It was a beautiful scenic drive with many poppies and wildflowers to see along the way. We drove past Lake Elizabeth and Lake Hughes before we turned onto Lake Hughes Road. This road was fabulous. I would have loved to have driven a convertible with a shift stick along this road. Oh, yes. This road was made for driving. It had some great curves, steep cliffs, awesome scenery. Yeah, now, there is driving and then there is driving. You can go for a drive and have the auto transmission and all that. But if you really want to get out driving, you go in a stick shift and you're changing the gears up and down as you smoothly go around the corners and the curves and uphills and downhills. And I used to do that in some places in New Zealand because most of our cars, when I learned to drive, most of the cars were stick shift at the time. And I remember when I got my first car, taking it for some drives along some of the more curvier roads. It was really cool to just go out and just drive. You really had to drive because not only were you steering, you were changing gears all the time, and that sort of thing. Anyway, we made our way up the road and through the pass, and suddenly before us was an incredible view of green. You're probably wondering why the green views impress me so much. All I have to say is I grew up in New Zealand with green trees, fields, and bushes everywhere. To find this oasis of green in Southern California to me was like finding a treasure trove. It was beautiful. Oh, yeah. There was green grass, green trees, green bushes, everything. It was just a sea of green. Green. It was beautiful. To add to the beauty before us, we could even see a glimpse of blue water that was Castaic Lake. After stopping to admire the beauty before us, we continued down to Castaic. Am I saying that right? Castaic Lake. The lake was gorgeous. There were people in boats out on the lake enjoying a great day on the lake. The blue of the water was incredible against the dark green foliage of the trees that were all over the hills surrounding the lakes. You could so easily have been on the shores of one of the lakes in New Zealand. After admiring the scene before us, we got onto the I-5 and headed south towards home. We did divert into Santa Clarita for a refreshing ice cream at Dairy Queen before we made it home. We got back about 4 p.m. and were all very tired. We then finished our day of adventure with a delicious hour-long nap and woke feeling refreshed and lazy. The brain was ready to kick back into gear and came up with some great thoughts and ideas, but I wasn't ready to sit down at the computer and work on them. I stayed off the computer as much as possible. I did a little Facebook, checked on my personal emails, and that was about it. Work can wait one more day. Yesterday was all about putting down the tools and getting out and taking time for me and spending quality time with my husband. It was a great day and we enjoyed our day out. We ended the day sitting and watching a movie together, which we hadn't done in ages. It was nice to take a day off since I know this week is going to be full on. On Wednesday, I leave for Fort Lauderdale and a 5-day travel agent convention. So to be able to take a day off and recharge and spend time with my husband before the week started was a day to treasure. When was the last time you took a day off and got out of town for a day to explore the countryside and spend quality time with someone special? We all need those days. Put down your pen, turn your computer off, step away from the office, and go for a drive in the country. Maybe take a picnic with you. You won't regret it. Even that small break from the office or from home can help refresh and recharge you. Go on, give it a try. I dare you. That wasn't too bad. I actually remember that trip. So, yeah, so that, that's just one of the blogs that was in one of these folders that I found. And it was just incredible just going back through there. And, even this day trip thing, reading back about it, and that was back in, like I said, April 11th, 2011. I totally remember every moment of that trip. It was just amazing. It brought back the images that we saw as we were driving along, all the poppies, the wildflowers, the green forests that we saw around the crystal blue lake. And of course, people were out there on boats. And so you had the white wake behind them. There were some people on jet skis. So there was the rooster tails coming up from this beautiful blue lake. And you had the white rooster tails. You had the white wakes. And it was all surrounded by dark green forest. It was incredible. That was a fun day. And trying to get Gus to sit, that was a challenge. And then we were trying to get him, and I've got pictures of him up at the rocks. And there was like these little nooks of rocks that would have like a rock here and with a rock laying over it. So we're trying to get him to sit on the rock, lay on the rock. Nope. And he was just interested in going into this little rock hut and looking out at us. So we got pictures of him looking out from these little rock huts that he found along the way. It was just, and I have to tell you, it was a great day, a great break from the normal. It was getting out there and doing something completely different from what we had been doing and taking that break that we needed. So when was the last time you just took a day off? Just put everything down, put down the tools, turn the computer off, get in the car and just go. But you'll learn more about that in the book that's coming up. The book, and I'm not going to tell you what it's all about until Sunday night once it's published. Yes, so try and get it published before 6 p.m. on Sunday. But that's it from us for today. I've actually done early. Oh, and I'm so sorry that I clicked the live button an hour and a half early. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be all set up. Then I could go do some writing for an hour and a half, come back, sit down, click the live button, do the live, and then we're out of here and off to a WALK for the DOG. So now I guess the DOG might get a WALK a little earlier than normal. Or maybe I'll just make them wait. But I'm going to go do some writing now. I have writing to do. I've got to write 5,000 words. You get 5,000 words written because that's how many words they want for the book for the 7-day challenge. So I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic sparkling day. And for those of you who are having to watch the recording because you tuned in for a live and it was already done, I'm sorry. It just happened. I just got everything set up, and the next thing I know, there's a little live button across the middle of the screen. So go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. He konera.